Tucker Carlson is taking a page out of Donald Trump's book and questioning whether Kamala Harris, the nation's first biracial vice president, is actually an American at all. So who knows? Let's hear his argument. What does he have to say?
So the one thing we know for sure about Kamala Harris is we should all be very, very grateful to have her because she's historic for reasons that no one ever explains. But there's a lot we don't know about Kamala Harris. Most people probably don't know she really grew up in Canada. That's where she went to high school. She's not from this country in that sense, or she's certainly also from Canada. Okay, didn't know that. Doesn't mean that she's not gonna be a good vice president, but why haven't we heard that?
I don't care. I mean, look, I know what he's trying to do here, right? But like, oh, we're supposed to celebrate because this is historic for reasons that no one's explained. He knows what he's doing, come on.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted by this guy. And the thing that sucks is he's influential and he's strategic and certainly better at planning where he wants to go than Donald Trump is, which is terrifying because I actually think that if he does find himself in a position of political power, right? There are of course rumors that he might run for the White House sometime in the future. He would definitely be more destructive than Donald Trump because he actually has a strategic mind.
Yeah, no, Trump and Tucker are the two most dangerous guys. The rest, I think, is easy, normal corporate Republicans. So in terms of this issue that he just manufactured out of thin air. Number one, she's historic, no one's ever explained. Okay, Tucker, she's the first woman to be vice president. What you're saying is, I don't care. Who cares about women, right? She's the first African American, she's the first biracial to be vice president. So you can say that's not important to you, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised by that. But that's why she's historic. That role is, right? Now, funny enough, I also agree that doesn't mean it means something in terms of history, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of her performance.
Right.
So, okay, all those things are great, and I'm glad the country got to that point. But right now, what has she done? What's her policies? What has she fought for? I did a very long video yesterday about her. She's done nothing on policy. If he had critique of her on policy, that's perfectly fine. We have critique of her on policy, a lot, right? But he's going after her as non-American. Now you do that, they even on the left, they don't do it for white people, right? You could be a Democrat, and if you're white, nobody ever questioned where Bill Clinton was from. Nobody ever said, oh, he went to Oxford, huh? Because he was a Rhodes Scholar. So I guess he studied abroad. Is he really American? Because he's a good old white boy from Arkansas. So
Tucker's mama and papa sent him to boarding school in Switzerland. So is he really Swiss?
Well, Anna, that's where I was going. That's why I want to look up the name of the school that he went to. So Tucker's the heir to the Swanson fortune. He's been enormously wealthy his whole life, okay?
But he's a real fighter against the elites.
Yeah, and his great grandpapa was of Swiss origin. And he'd been sent to boarding schools for most of his life. I mean, look at the life that he led.
Isn't boarding school where rich people send their kids because they don't want to deal with them?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Okay. Now, look, some really want him to get a good education, etc. But anyways, but in this case, they sent him to Switzerland. So I was looking up the name of the school that he went to. It was Collège de la Monde. Remember, Switzerland is partly German ethnicity and partly French ethnicity. So he went to a French school in Switzerland. Mr. Populist here, questioning that Kamala Harris, because her mom had to move to Montreal for a job, went to high school, not in the beginning, but in high school, and just high school in Canada. Meanwhile, he's over at a French school in Switzerland, at Collège de la Monde. Carlson, Carlson, okay, Carlson de Garçon, where are you?
Oh, Garçon.
Because Swanson, frozen dinners, okay, Carlson de Garçon, right?
You're crazy.
And he knows that. He lived his life. He knows he was at a fancy French boarding school in Europe. He says this stuff anyway, because you know why? He's like, my audience is never gonna find out. I'll just pretend they do it and nobody will ever find out I did it.
Yeah, and no one is going to set the same standards for Tucker Carlson that he's setting for Kamala Harris. Like, let's just keep it real.
Yeah, and part of that is because of the
white
racism.
Guy. Yeah, no, totally, 100%. So anyway, he's not quite done with Kamala Harris yet. Actually, before we get to the next clip, I just want to note one other thing. Listen, the VP's role is mostly useless, okay? The VP is just there in case something happens to the president and that person, the VP, steps in, right? So sure, the Biden administration put immigration issues on Kamala Harris to deal with. And that is an impossible situation to deal with unilaterally, especially as a vice president who doesn't really have much power to begin with.
No, let's be honest, they screwed her.
They did.
Here, take this toxic bag,
dude,
and tie it around your ankle. Good luck.
Dude, so yesterday, Biden signed the bipartisan infrastructure bill into law. And Kamala Harris, of course, was there. And so she gave like this brief speech, like, applauding him and applauding all the progress that's been made. And you could just, like, the lack of charisma, the like complete apathy, you could see it. She's not very happy. She's not a very happy person right now.
No. In fact, the CNN long rumor-filled gossipy story about Kamala Harris on CNN was filled with donor complaints that Biden's not helping her enough because she totally works for the donors. So they want her to be featured more, right? So by the way, look at us making a far more scathing critique of Kamala Harris than Tucker Carlson. But for his audience, he'd have to then say, oh yeah, they're corrupt, but that means Republicans, including Trump, are also corrupt for taking the donor money. So instead, she's black. That's his critique of Kamala Harris.
And of course, what could be more relevant than talking about Kamala Harris's personal life and her dating history? He gets into that in this clip.
By the way, how did someone who clearly is not liked by the people around her and clearly isn't very good at her job get so high up? Well, we know her first meaningful job in politics was given to her by her boyfriend at the time, who's married, Willie Brown, most powerful Democrat in California. But we know that Willie Brown is not the only powerful person she dated. And this is pretty interesting. We're not exactly sure what to make of it. But it turns out that Kamala Harris also dated the tabloid TV show host, Montel Williams, who was always doing shows about people's weird sex lives. We know that because of this video. Watch.
Long before she met Doug Emhoff, she dated some prominent men, including in 2001, former talk show host Montel Williams. Back then, he was the famous one and had to introduce her to the paparazzi.
So we know that Montel Williams called her Kamala. We also know she calls herself Kamala sometimes, but that's kind of all we know. So what was that relationship like? What did Montel Williams think of it? So we would love to talk to Montel Williams about his torrid relationship with Kamala, because that might be one of those blanks we'd like to fill in. Anyway, he is always welcome on this show.
You guys, none of this matters. None of it matters. None of it matters. Like right wingers, guys, please, you're being distracted with this nonsense, okay? Like there's valid criticism of the Biden administration, valid criticism of Kamala. This is just garbage. This is nothing more than like tabloid nonsense. It does nothing to better your life at all, at all. This is just, oh, we hate the other side, so let's get into the dating life of Kamala. Who cares?
Who cares? But so why is he doing that? Because the first part was she's not really American, that's the racism. And look at the guys she dated, that's how she got up in the world, that's sexism. And that's his audience's bread and butter. So he knows they're gonna eat that up. Now, meanwhile, they're robbing the place in the back, right?
Totally.
Like Kamala Harris's donors, the Republican donors that Tucker Carlson loves, are robbing us blind with their tax cuts for the wealthy, higher drug prices, etc. And meanwhile, Tucker's like, Montel Williams, I'm talking about Montel Williams, take all the money out now. Take it out now. The idiots aren't paying attention at all. I got them with racism and sexism.
No, but that is hard-hitting news. Montel Williams dated Kamala Harris. He introduced her on the red carpet. Oh my God.
You know why they brought in Montel Williams?
So pathetic.
One, because he's like especially the older crowd remembers him as a talk show host and so salacious, etc. But number two, they didn't have to show the video. I think the other woman in the video is Montel Williams' daughter, but they never clarified that. So it almost looks like he's dating two people, including Kamala Harris. You see that? That's why they showed the video, okay? And so it's all subliminal messages to their audience: hater, 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 based on her gender, based on her race and her name. Kamala, oh, it's so funny to make fun of her name. Ha 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 ha. Said Carlson the Garçon. Okay, that's why he used to wear the bow ties. Remember?
Yes, I do remember.
When he changed into a fake populist, he took the bow ties off because he realized people hate people in bow ties, right? But until then, because he grew up as Carlson the Garçon, he used to wear bow ties because that's where they wore at College de Le Monde, where the non-American Tucker Carlson got his education.
And listen, if you want to provide a valid critique of how Democrats use identity politics, like that definitely exists, right? So listen, I have nothing against Kamala Harris because of her identity, but I do have something against the Democratic Party providing this like illusion of change and exclusion and all of that. When in reality, like I think it's actually far more insulting that they don't look at the substance, or they don't talk about the substance of the very person that they're nominating or appointing. They just say, oh, this is the first gay person, this is the first black person, this is the first whatever. Cool, that's great, but what is their substance? What do they stand for? What do they want to do to actually further equality or further rights for the American electorate, right? That's what matters. Like, that's genuine and I think valid critique, but he's not gonna go there because he doesn't want those things, right? He doesn't actually care about providing valid critique. He loves to get in the dirt. He loves rolling around in that dirt, right? Montel Williams this, Kamala Harris pronounces her name like that, who cares?
So just to finish that thought, ironically, Pelosi and Tucker Carlson are the different sides of the same coin, right? So the Pelosi's of the world say, Kamala Harris is a black woman, so you should ignore everything when we make drug prices higher and not lower. We promise you lower drug prices, but it's okay. It was a black woman who screwed you over and gave you higher drug prices. No, it's not okay. I love that we have the first woman vice president. I love that we have the first biracial, first African-American vice president. But we need her to do the actual right policies, otherwise it's nearly irrelevant, right? Now, Tucker Carlson, on the other hand, says he loves that they have higher drug prices, so everybody he knows can get rich. But he says you guys should hate her because she's black, she's a woman. And by the way, bottom line here, what was that segment with Willie Brown and Montel Williams and who she sleeps with? He was calling her a slut.
Yeah, of course, we know what he's doing.
Yes, and so Tucker Carlson's a terrible person, and if you watch him and you cheerlead on that, you're a terrible person.
But don't call him a terrible person to his face, because then he'll cry and cry while he's wearing his little lumberjack shirt. It's very, very sad.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.